Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts, and I'm excited to introduce you to a new podcast series in partnership with Lord Fairfax Community College. Having provided higher education and career training for the past half-century, LFCC is tightly interwoven into the fabric of the Northern Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions. Join me every week for conversations with current and former students to hear their funny and inspiring stories as we learn about their journey to higher education, the role that LFCC has played, where they are now, and where they plan to go. We'll also talk to current and former professors about their experiences and best memories of LFCC over the past 50 years. Get every single episode as they're released on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for LFCC Stories. Hello and welcome to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Monday as you are listening to the show today. And it is a Monday full of wonder because I am not live in the studio, but my guest is Lieutenant Warren Gosnell from the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. Normally we are live. He is feeling a little under the weather, so we are meeting on the Zoom screen after dark on a Sunday. This is so weird, guys.
Well, yeah, live is a relative term right now for yours truly.
And I have to let everybody know that I made you turn your video on Zoom so that I could tell you how crappy you looked. I really don't need the video at all to record this interview.
Well, you know, I'm unshaven. My hair is not the way it normally is, but hey, I'm still me. I'm still full of all the knowledge and expertise that you love so much, Janet. So it's my pleasure to be here in my man cave doing the Valley Today.
So how much of this knowledge are you going to impart on us today? What are we going to be talking about?
Well, you know, normally this time of year, we start our way into reminding people with the holidays and such, and normally the get-togethers that people plan around the holidays, we start focusing on our impaired driving campaigns. Reminding people, you know, if you're going to have that happy hour after work, you know, before the Thanksgiving holiday and the 4 or 5 day break that some people give, or if you're getting ready to get together with friends that you only see once a year for the holidays, or even with the family, we start reminding folks again, you know, that one drink can easily turn into 2, 3, or 4, and before you know it, you're hitting the road for the next function or family get together, and what you've consumed is starting to catch up with you. So we try to remind people that, you know, if you're going to celebrate the holidays in that fashion with your favorite seasonal libation or such, that you keep it in the back of your mind of what's going on, and that you may feel okay at one point, but then those last couple of sips or that shot or whatever you might have had starts metabolizing and catches up to you at the wrong time once you're already well within the next phase of travel on the road.
Well, and I think you're forever the optimist that you're talking about people getting together and celebrating, because I would have to drink just to go meet, you know, spend time with family. With my particular personal family, I would have to throw back several shots to enjoy that. So it's not celebratory for me.
Well, and you're not alone in that instance, Janet. I think it's one of those things where it's we have the thought in our mind of what we would love the holidays to be with family, and then there's the cruel reality of what it can truly be like. But that's the thing, you know, without trying to detract people from the spirit of the season. We kid because we care, just like you and I, you know, kid with each other about things. I would like to hope that if either one of us truly needed or was in a position where something was wrong, you know, we put the joking aside. So it's the same thing when we talk about our families. We talk about it with love, or at least I am.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah.
So in the middle of this pandemic, is it Do you think people are thinking that it's harder? I mean, are you seeing that people are thinking they can get away with more in the middle of a pandemic or not? I mean, you guys are still doing your job. You're still out on the streets. You're still monitoring traffic, pulling people over, running your checkpoints. I mean, is it easier or harder, do you think, in the middle of this pandemic for people to kind of walk the walk?
I think it's harder for them to realize um, the dangers involved, and it's more difficult for those of us on the road um, to get a grasp on exactly how this pandemic is affecting everyone. I can tell you, you and I have had talks before over the past couple of months. In Frederick County, we've seen an increase in our traffic crashes, and not just an increase in the number of crashes, but in the severity level of the crashes. Um, we've seen an increase in fatalities. We've had an increase in serious injury crashes. And don't get me wrong, I can't sit here and say that's because of the pandemic, but I can tell you we've seen a 117% increase in the number of DUI arrests that we are making at the sheriff's office in Frederick County compared to the same time last year. And with that in mind, I can tell you that we're also seeing more alcohol-related daytime crashes than we've seen in the past couple of years. Is that just coincidence? I don't think so. A lot more people are not working the regular hours that they're used to working, or maybe not working at all. You get those periods of cabin fever where people are being isolated or quarantined, and then they're free, let's say. And so what's one of the first things they want to do? They want to get out of their house, and they want to, socialize. And with that, some people do it in a controlled environment, and some people don't have that self-control. So all I know is our statistics are showing that during this ongoing situation, we're seeing an increase in the number of crashes, the severity of crashes, and those that are involving alcohol or impaired driving. And the only thing I can tell folks is, it's a roll of the dice. When you go into a business or an establishment and you don't wear your mask, or other people aren't wearing your masks, that's a roll of the dice as far as with this COVID-19 thing. When you go into an establishment and you decide you're going to have a couple of drinks, and then drive yourself anywhere, you're rolling the dice. And again, you may be perfectly fine. You may be on your way home. You may not be feeling any ill effects from what you've consumed, and it's the other person that causes the crash. But the alcohol that you've consumed is enough that it has impaired you, or as far as Virginia law is concerned, you're under the influence because you're above that 0.08. So again, is it worth it, number one, to risk your well-being, the well-being of those in your vehicle, the well-being of those driving around you? And is it worth what comes afterwards, even if you don't end up in a crash, injuring yourself or someone else, but you get caught and you get arrested?
I would say the answer to both of those is no. It is never worth it under any circumstances when the option is there to not do either. I mean, that's the thing. You can just stay home and drink and not go anywhere and celebrate on a Zoom screen, or even have people to your house. Or you can just have one or two, wait a half an hour, 45 minutes after that last drink, see how you feel then before you get behind the wheel. There are just so many other options that make it so much safer for you and everybody around you.
And that's the bottom line answer. It's like, why are we telling people to stay home if they aren't feeling well, if they have a fever, or especially if they've, tested positive for COVID? People can say what they want about this situation, but those people that are dealing with it, as far as have symptoms or have tested positive or having to quarantine for 10 days, 2 weeks at a time, it's a very serious situation. And I can tell you, feeling under the weather that I am, and being here at the house for the past now 7 days, hey, it's nothing to play around with. And it's the same thing with getting behind the wheel. And that leads me into the next phase of this conversation that we're having. We're talking alcohol. Let's put the alcohol to the side for a moment. Let's talk about medications. I've been taking more acetaminophen and ibuprofen and Robitussin and every other thing that ends with 12 syllables, trying to knock this thing down. I can tell you, we've got folks that are taking their meds and then getting behind the wheel. And so that's the other thing to keep in mind. You may think you're doing everything right, but some of these medications that people are being prescribed, and even some of the over-counter medications, if you're taking enough of them or taking groups of them in combination, you shouldn't be behind the wheel.
Well, let's take a break. I'm going to go find something here in my house to present with your wife as an award, because God help her, she's had you in that house for 7 days. She deserves something. I'm not sure what.
Well, she's already gotten it. So.
Yeah. Okay. No. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with Lieutenant Warren Gosnell from the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. You, of course, are listening to it on a Monday afternoon. We are recording it on a Sunday evening, and we're going to be back, and we'll talk more with Gos in just a couple of minutes.
Do you know anyone who is struggling with financial hardships because of coronavirus? Our new webinar called Coping with the Money Crunch can help. We'll talk about immediate options to consider, revising or creating a spending plan, and lots of community resources. Then we'll cover how to narrow your priorities, contact creditors, and avoid scams and risky loans. The webinar is free, and you can either join by phone or through Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer. You can find out more by visiting the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program on Facebook or calling Karen Poff at 540-635-4549. Let me show you how to make your own plan or help someone you care about get through the crisis. Call 635-4549 or visit @NSV Financial Education on Facebook today.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Monday as you are listening to the show today. We, however, have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen on a Sunday evening. We are chatting with Lieutenant Warren Gosnell from the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. He is feeling a little under the weather. His radio voice is a little gravelly on today's show, and his face is quite a little bit scruffy. So it's a good thing this is radio.
I've told you before, Janet, I'm the first one to admit I have a face for radio. So,
and it's funny because I never noticed that in the studio when we're sitting across from each other. But now that I'm looking at you on a screen, you really do have a face for radio.
Oh.
So how about in this segment, we talk about some of the regular things that sometimes people forget about. So the first question that I have for you is inspections. In previous shows, the last couple of months, there have been extensions, registration, all of that stuff. It didn't matter really when it expired because you were getting a pass. Is that still going on, or do people need to start looking at that kind of stuff again?
Well, the thing I'll remind the listeners of is, number one, registrations, the expirations had automatically been extended through DMV. So most of those, if not all now, have expired as far as the extensions that were given. So if you haven't renewed those tags yet, DMV probably hasn't extended it any further for you. But with that being said, we're also understanding the fact that people are waiting weeks, if not months or longer, to get into the DMV, trying to set up appointments. So it's a gray area. If you're taking some type of action, if you've set up an appointment and haven't been able to get in yet, and most of the DMV locations have been allowing people to renew registrations online, even if they're already expired, which you used to couldn't do. So you should be trying that, number one, if you're truly ready to get it renewed, and don't have anything else preventing that from happening. You have proper insurance, your license is in order, and you have the funds, then you should try to go online first of all and try to renew it. But if you have to go into DMV for whatever reason, you're transferring a title, you've bought a used vehicle or whatever, then you should at least have an appointment made by now, and you should have record of that upcoming appointment. And if you carry that with you in the automobile that you're driving and show that, number one, yes, here's my bill of sale for this used vehicle. Here is my appointment date that I have set up that clearly states what I'm going into the DMV for. This should be a common sense event between you and the officer, the trooper, deputy, whatever. But with inspections, that's a different animal. Inspections have never been extended. That was a directive that the governor passed along to the superintendent of the state police in Virginia, was to, hey, don't have your troopers enforce this. There was no extension because the governor doesn't have that authority, that power. He's not able to create a mandate for that. But he was able to give a directive to the state police who work directly under his office and say, I don't want you making stops for this. Town officers, sheriff's deputies, other municipalities with police officers, there was nothing to prevent them from stopping a person with a dead inspection and taking action against that. And that's where a lot of people got confused. It's one thing to say, hey, your registration's dead, and some people say, okay, big deal. State's trying to, keep track of who owns what, and I understand that. And some people believe, well, they're trying to get their little slice of my pie. But when it comes to vehicle inspection, it's a little different because it's a safety inspection. And so tire tread does matter. Do your wipers work? Do your headlights work? Some of those safety features do matter. And so this is, again, comes back to, if you've made some type of effort, inspection stations are open. Get your vehicle in there, get it inspected. And even if it fails, at least you're showing that you've made some type of effort and you know what needs to be worked on, and you can get that fixed. So as far as I know, no further extensions to either one of those topics.
And now is the time to squeeze into an inspection station because it's middle of the month and it's a Monday. So the chances of having to wait in line this time of the month are a lot slimmer than they are in a couple more weeks on the last weekend. Correct. Before the first of the month.
Well, and with some of the new laws that are coming out that we've talked about and that have made the news here recently with the police reform and such going on, here in Virginia, you may have an automatic extension anyway, because if the bill that was passed earlier in the year by the Senate and the House is signed by the governor after the amendments he wanted made to the headlights and taillights and brake light portion, if they've finished that bill now and signed it, you can't be stopped for the first 90 days that your tags or your inspection are expired anyway, after January. Now, remember though, we talked about that. You can't be pulled over for it, but if you're pulled over for something else or you come through a checkpoint or whatever, they're violations and they can be addressed. So,
hey, I see you at the station every month. I always make sure that my tags are current and my car is inspected, because you're going to give me grief otherwise. It has nothing to do with safety on the road. It's because I don't want to hear a rash of crap from you.
Well, and there you go. I'm doing my job then, keeping you in line. I mean, you want to talk about my wife being a saint, Tim there. You want to talk about a saint. I mean,
he's in the next room right now trying to keep the puppies quiet. So yes, I will grant him his sainthood for the next 20 minutes. So before we wrap up, one of the things that we normally talk about in November is the fact that hunting season comes in and it starts to get dark earlier. So what safety tips do you have for people out on the roads now that our lives are getting dark at what it feels like the middle of the day?
Well, just remember when you're coming home now, and it's 5 o'clock, 5:30, maybe you're getting home a little bit late. Could still be kids out playing. Um, so you're going to be watching out for them. Could be folks walking their pets. It could be still folks trying to get exercise, and not everybody is doing the smart thing and wearing bright reflective clothing. They're wearing the dark browns or the blacks, and so you got to be careful at even going through your own subdivision and neighborhoods, especially ones where cars park in the streets. You never know when a little one is going to come darting out from between two cars, or someone's pet may come running out. So you want to be scanning as you're coming through and keeping that in mind. I'm sure maybe next month we'll be talking about what the winter weather is going to be like. I don't know if you've checked the almanac yet or not, Janet, but supposedly the almanac says this might be a nastier winter for us here in our area. And it doesn't take much in our area for the roads to go south once the freezing precipitation starts falling in and around with everything else that we have going on. So I just remind folks, hey, check the safety equipment out, check your headlights, check your tire treads, make sure you have at least a half a tank of gas, because anymore, even if you're getting on the interstate just to go a couple exits, we had one point on 81 a few weeks ago where we had north and southbound shut down. And there were folks that were on the interstate for hours at a time that could not go anywhere.
Wow.
So again, you want to keep that in mind with the cooler temperatures. It's one thing in the summer, you can always put the windows down and shut the car off and try to stay cool. But in the wintertime, there's only so much you can do to stay warm. And if you run out of fuel, that could be an issue for you, trying to stay warm along the side of the road while you're waiting for help to come along.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had an issue coming home the other day, and there was an accident in front of me, and they detoured me. And my biggest issue was I didn't know how to get home from the detour, and I had to call my husband and say, I don't know how to get home from here. And he says, your GPS will tell you. Your phone will say, you just say, take me home, and it'll tell you. I said, you are my GPS. How do I get home from here? But aren't you glad I didn't call you and ask you how to get from point A to point B?
I wish you would have called me. I would love to tell you how to get there, Janet.
Well, we are going to wrap up our conversation today with Lieutenant Warren Gosnell from the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. I'm going to let him go refuel his Tussin because he clearly needs a little bit more of it. I will be back tomorrow. I'll have a brand new episode of The Valley Today ready to go for you just a few minutes after noon. Meet me here then.